Hello, my friends, and welcome to the very first episode of Share Your Story with Ellie. I'm your host, Ellie B. I am so thrilled to have you here. This podcast has really been a dream of mine for a couple of years. But as with all things that feel like a dream, there's a lot of risk there on just, am I going to do it well enough? I really want it to be perfect. How do I jump in? So the fact that you're here and listening really means more to me than I can even express. I really believe being a communicator is part of my calling. And so this podcast is the perfect medium for someone who loves to talk. So I am so glad you're here and listening. And I cannot wait to get to know each other more as this podcast journey progresses. I really never expected to start with a solo episode because of all of the emotions that come with it. Knowing it is just literally me and a microphone is honestly very overwhelming, even though if you would have asked me as a kid, having a microphone in front of my face was actually the dream. I don't have the singing talents for it, but hopefully it works out from this perspective instead. I really have always loved telling stories, and I feel like this first episode is really going to be a glimpse into what to expect from this podcast and hopefully get you excited for future episodes. I really, as long as I can remember, have loved stories and storytelling. I remember sitting on the playground in kindergarten at the picnic benches with my teachers. Instead of running around on the playground, I was telling them about how my grandfather once pulled along a dead alligator behind his boat. But that's a story for another time. I also was told in high school that I could have a conversation with a wall, and not just any wall, a plain, blank, white wall. And I would probably walk away feeling like we had a good conversation because that's just how much I love talking. But I think also storytelling is really important to be a listener first. And I really had the gift of that in my mom. She was so great at using different accents and acting things out, using giant hand gestures and anything in between to really get the story across. And as someone who didn't like having pictures taken of herself, these are really the memories I cherish so much now because I have these frameworks of our family history and of things that mattered to her and meant so much. And so I've just always really been surrounded by a lot of stories and storytelling. You can ask my friends now. I am still the person who, with almost anything that is going on, I love to be able to relate it back to a story that I have. And I really want this podcast to be just that, a platform that you and I can relate to each other in the stories that are really important in our lives. These are not meant to be interviews. This is not meant to be a place where I am just simply asking questions, but instead I want it to feel like you're sitting alongside me and a friend as we talk through the exciting things, the things we want to celebrate, the stories that are making us laugh recently, or even the things that are just hard and challenging that we have absolutely no idea how to navigate. I'm inviting my friends in to talk about these different chapters and seasons of their life, and I hope that you can relate to that. And really, a lot of this goes back to the last couple of years. I feel like God has been asking me to really dig through the question of why does your story matter? I think like all of us, my story is different than I really thought it would be. I think I have absolutely so many things to celebrate and be grateful for, where I can absolutely see the provision and just the protection that God has had over my life. And I can celebrate and be excited about really so many beautiful redemptive things. But I also have a lot of chapters of my story that are confusing and sad and full of grief and things that I wish were different, things that if I could rewrite it myself, I probably would. So in asking that question, I really found so much hope and solace in this quote that was in John Eldredge's recent book, Resilient. He writes, "Story is the way we orient ourselves in the world. Story is how we figure things out, bring order and meaning to the events around us. The story we hold at any given time shapes our perceptions, hopes, and expectations. It gives us a place to stand." And I really found that to be so true, especially in June of 2019 when my mom went home to be with Jesus. Story grounded me more than anything else. I honestly found myself unable to lift my voice to sing or experience encouragement in a sermon or even listening to someone offer me a verse. It's not that I didn't know it was true. It didn't get to the depths of my pain the way I so needed it to. But really listening to other podcasts and stories and testimonies of other people say, yep, I have been there. I have been in the depths of despair and disbelief. And just to listen how their perseverance led to new joys gave me an anchor, honestly. And the ever swaying waves of grief and disillusionment. It was the thing that held me together to say that their story matters just as much as mine does. And even in the parts that I'm confused about or I don't fully understand, there will be purpose in a lot of this. John Eldredge in his book goes on to say, despite what the world is shouting at you, the story of God is still the story of the world. And I really do believe that wholeheartedly. As I mentioned, there are chapters that I still don't understand, that I'm still confused about, but I'm learning to see it in the greater story that is my story of what he's purposed in my life, but also his greater story of love and redemption. And honestly, the Bible is filled with stories of people, imperfect people, people who definitely did not follow plan A or plan B. They ran even from plan C and they made a lot of mistakes, but you see in their stories and the fact that those imperfect stories were included in the Bible, those matter. And we see that God still redeemed so much or chased after them and pursued them. And I still believe that's true of my story. And I believe that's true of your story too. Jesus also told parables to be able to relate and communicate his messages so that we would better understand. And he honestly rarely gave explanations, which truly I know that's what I'm after almost 100% of the time. I just want to understand why this, why now, even in the good things of how did this come about? What is this for? Or how long do I get to sit in this and really celebrate it? But our stories are like that too, right? We rarely have complete explanations for anything, but there is absolutely still purpose, direction, and meaning to be drawn from all of it. I really believe the story of our lives is ultimately learning more about the heart of God through our stories, as it is in the Bible. But I also want to say that I have gained so much from so many people who do not believe exactly what I believe. And I want this to be an open invitation for so many. I want this to be a place that even if we don't believe the exact same thing, or even if we disagree on whatever the subject might be, we can sit with each other and learn from one another. Because ultimately, I think when we sit up close and personal and we really get to understand the pain points, the stuff that gets us excited or makes us laugh, or even the latest song that we cannot quit listening to, those are the things that help spur us on to the next day. And I really believe that that is important, especially in a day and age when so much is just distracting or hard. I really want to be able to sit with each other and see the purpose in our stories. My greatest hope for this podcast is that you would feel like it's a place that you can belong, a place that you can open up and learn more about your story and even just explore an element of your story through the conversations I have with my people. I want you to leave encouraged or to feel heard for a moment that you're struggling with. I think each episode will offer you something different, whether that's just a laugh of girlfriends talking about the crazy dating scene, or it's deeper, something that you need to navigate. How do I continue to believe in the midst of the pain that I'm in? I really do believe that we can learn so much from each other up close. So I hope that these episodes will serve you in big ways and in small. I truly believe in the power of story, and I cannot wait to go along this journey together. I'm so excited to invite you into my first conversation with my mom's best friend, Susan Britt. She has been a mentor to me through so many years and seasons of life, and especially in the last few months has been such an element of hope and excitement and really leaning in with me in prayer, but also reminding me of so many funny, ridiculous, hysterical memories we've shared over the last few years. I cannot wait for you to learn more about her story and just learn more about what it's like to be a best friend who's gone through grief. And from a different side of it. Make sure you are following the Share Your Story podcast on Instagram, and I'll leave a bunch of notes in the show notes that you can follow along. I am so excited, and I cannot wait to catch up on Thursday. We will talk soon.